Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Inshallah, we'll begin today. Unfortunately, the English translation is way too long. The Arabic is maqasidul Quran. Maqasid suwar al-Quran. The higher aims behind the chapters of the Quran. And let me begin with this, and I really wanted this to be in a form of a class, not just sitting in the masjid and that you write and take notes and all of this, because it is more of academia than, preaching and all of that. But let me ask you this question as a start. How would you feel about, a khatib who gets on the pulpit and he simply presents 20, 30 subjects in his talks? He goes right, left, right. What is your assessment of that khatib? What are you going to say about him? He's unprepared. He got on the pulpit unprepared because his subjects are scattered, they're all over the place. He's not connecting the dots. He's not joining. He's not focused. Now, it's very unfortunate that you may find a lot of the it's okay, sister. You're good, inshallah. You may find a lot of the the chapters of the Quran, when you read them, Musa, then you go into jihad, then you go into spending, then you go into putting the Mus'haf to be of that too. Like, for example, read Surah Al-Baqarah. How big it is, right? How many subjects mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah? I can count maybe 100 subjects. Is Kalamullah like this? Would you question then Kalamullah, say that Kalamullah is not focused in one? And this is where that knowledge comes in, that every chapter has a higher aim, is addressing one subject. And everything inside this chapter serves that meaning. You have to connect it to that meaning. You're getting that? Regardless, I'll give you an ideal example. Let's Surah Al-Baqarah. And again, inshallah, we will talk more about it when we come to it. It's 286 verses. 286 verses. And it would be nice if you have a Quran in your hand next time, not now. 286 verses. Right? That's how many verses in the surah. Now, what is the higher aim of this chapter? The scholars came up with, and again, this is not something in the Sunnah or something that the Prophet actually did say, but this is something that you deduce, you trigger. And I will tell you how you trigger it. But they say the whole chapter is about preparing the Muslim Ummah to be the vicegerent, that's the word, to take the lead, to be in charge. It's the last nation, the last messenger was sent to them, so Allah is preparing them to be the khulafa, the khalifa. طيب. You will find that the first segment of the surah categorizes the people, categorization of the people. Of mankind. Can you grab a mushaf if you're able to? Can you guys grab a mushaf? Because I really want you to look at it. I mean, if you're going to need English, maybe if you have your iPhone or something in English, that's something that you can do. Salah barakatuh. Salim, how you doing? Alhamdulillah, how are you doing? So look from verse number 1 all the way until verse 29. 1 to 29. 1 to 29, Surah Al-Baqarah. You will find Surah Al-Baqarah, again, this is the main what? Aim here. So the first subject here is of mankind. You have believers, you have disbelievers, and hypocrites. We have 3 types of people in the face of this earth. Believers from 1 to 5. Just read 1 to 5, right? Disbelievers 6 and 7. Right? 8 till 21 or 20, the hypocrites. And now you should ask why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken only 5 verses talking about the believers and only 2 verses talking about the disbelievers and almost 13 verses from 8 all the way until 20, 12 verses to talk about the hypocrites. That's the first question that you ask yourself. Why? May I ask you why? Yes? That is important, but I mean, this is, Allah is basically trying to categorize the people to us, but why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take many verses to talk about the hypocrites? I tell you, because no one is supposed to accuse another person of hypocrisy. You can, because it's hypocrisy is where? In the heart. And we're talking about the hypocrisy pertaining to faith, iman, al-i'tiqad. So basically Allah is telling us not only to protect ourselves from the attributes or the characteristics, if this is a good word to use here, it's more of a positive word, but actually to identify them so that you're careful from them. because you're not supposed to accuse them. You're not supposed, you see, hypocrites will be in the society, in the community. You can't isolate them. You understand? So they are hidden. So Allah is giving you their characteristics in a way so that you're what? You know, so you're careful. But a kafir is clear. The kafir comes to you, I don't believe in your religion. So you know what to expect from him. الشاهد, the categorization of people. Believers, disbelievers, hypocrisy. Which of these categories? Let's now relate this to the main aim of the surah, Surah Al-Baqarah. So which of the groups here will be prepared for vicegerency in earth? Which of the groups? Of course, the believers. Well, hypocrites cannot be taking the lead. Disbelievers cannot be taking the lead. They may, like now, because the believers are asleep. But this is, again, so you understood 29 verses right here in context of what? Of that aim. You're getting that, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now is preparing us, the last ummah, to do what? To be the ummah that takes the lead in earth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look at verse number 30 all the way until 39. Please look at it. 30 until 39. So 2, that's subject 2. So these are subjects which come under what? This higher aim. So this is the title. So everything in that chapter will come under that. Categorization of people in order to say to you, believers will be the one who will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala support and give them victory in order to be the vicegerent. Now, look, verses 30 to what? 39. How? I want to ask you now. How would you relate this to this? Think now. Just read the whole set of verses and now think. How do you connect the story of the creation of Adam and Allah telling the angels that I'm going to place a vicegerent in earth, and then Satan, and then getting out of the garden and then go down? How do you connect this to this, like we connected this now? Can somebody come up with an answer here? How? So there was a trial before you. That was a trial, the first trial. I placed people before you in earth, Muslims. And it started with Adam. But Adam, so the first, I call it template. And it was, in fairness to Adam, it was experimental. It was more of an experiment. And I explain what I mean. Is that how you write experiment? Experiment. Something wrong here. No E, okay. Oh, without the E, okay. Okay. So it was experimental. So Allah placed a vicegerent in earth. We forgot to mention here the attributes of the believers. For you to be a believer, what do? You do two things. Because this is what will qualify you to be leading mankind, and Allah will help you. You do two things. You believe in the unseen, two, you say, we hear and we obey to the commands. So these are the main qualities of this group who will be leading the way in earth. They believe in the unseen. تصديق الخبر in Arabic. If Allah told you of an unseen in the Quran or in the tongue of the Prophet, you don't question it, you believe it. تصديق الخبر. And when Allah commands you to do something, what do? سمعنا وأطعنا. You say we hear and we obey. So the first template, Adam, experiment, Adam. And I say it was an experiment because there is a hadith that establishes this. A famous hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, hadith Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu. Met Musa, alayhim salam. When did they meet? Anyone knows? The night of what? Didn't the Prophet ﷺ lead all the messengers in Salah? On which night? And where? In the Masjid al-Aqsa. On which night? Surah wal-Ma'raj. Surah wal-Ma'raj. He led all the prophets. There is a hadith about this. So Adam met Musa. So Musa approached Adam and he said, you are Adam, our father, the one who got us out of the garden? So Adam looked at him in a very wise way and he said to him, you are Musa, you are the one Allah wrote the Torah to you. Yes. Didn't you read in the Torah that this was written upon me? I am to go through this to teach you something, to teach my kids something. So what did you learn from this experiment, Muslims? Number one, you identified the enemy. Sorry, my handwriting is sometimes because I'm assuming you know it. So who's the enemy here in the story? Satan. So now you know that you have an enemy who's gonna come and let you have doubts about this and whims and desires to prevent you from executing this. He's gonna play on those two. What message your beliefs? Having doubts, right? What message you saying سمعنا وأطعنا is whims and desires, you know, because the command comes against your desire. So he's gonna do on this, and this is what he did to our father. And he tricked him. He tricked him, right? He said, he didn't say that come and eat from the tree. What did he say to him? In another chapter, shall I show it to you? And that is why in Surah Al-Baqarah there is a verse out there that says what? يا أيها الذين آمنوا, O ye who believe, لا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ادخلوا في السلم كافة ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان. Do not follow the steps of shaitan. Because that's how he got Adam. You see, what did he say to Adam to eat from the tree? I just want to show it to you. He said, I just want to show it to you. I don't want you to eat from the tree. I know that you're not supposed to do that, but just look at it. But meanwhile, when Allah said to Adam not to eat from the tree, what did he say to Adam? Do not come what? Near it. Do not come near it. What is the second thing that you really learn from, and this is very important? Look at the verse, and Allah taught Adam the names of things. Why this is important? Allah is telling you also to be leading mankind in earth, you must possess the knowledge of this world. So both. That's why this verse, Allah taught Adam what? The names. You must be gurus on IT, astronomy, whatever it is, math. You can't just be offering the world spiritual solutions without having what? Something that we learned from this too. Right? So, this was a template which, where did Adam fail? In what area here? The second one. Adam failed in the second one. But again, who got him to fail? Shaitan. Also, it teaches us one more thing that we understand, so identify the enemies. It tells us what to do if we flunk, because we're not perfect. What to do when you mess up. Mess up here means sins, when you commit a sin. Yeah. You see, we had, in that particular story, we had two individuals who disobeyed Allah. Correct? Am I correct? I'm asking you, am I correct? Satan was asked to prostrate. Did he disobey or not? Adam was asked not to eat from the tree. Did he disobey or not? So they both, what? Disobeyed. Now the question here, why was Adam given a second chance and Satan was deprived from it? Okay, that's right here. Satan insisted, or the word insisted is not really accurate. I think he halalized, if I may use the word. He made it halal to disobey Allah. He found a reason to disobey Allah. Oh, I'm better. Why didn't you bow down? I'm better. You created him from what? And you created me from what? Oh. But Adam, when he said, why did you eat from the tree? What did he say? What did he say? I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. No more. Okay, you get a second chance. So, again, but the result of this experiment that we came down to earth. And who came down with us? Who? Shaitan. Another trial. He's there to get us in trouble. And if we succeed on fulfilling those two, we'll go back to the everlasting Jannah where there will be no forbidden trees. Everything will be what? Will be allowed. And that's the nature of the test here. Good. So again, did we understand this in context of this? So Allah is showing us an experiment. Look at Ummah. Look, my Ummah. This is your father, and this is what happened to him. Do not let Shaitan get to you like he got to him. You're getting that? That's, you see, again, it's a whole 28 verses. You're connecting what? When you read these verses, you understand them in preparing us to be the Khalifa, the leader in earth, leading the world. And somehow, because people have the freedom to believe, not to let those be in charge, not to let those people be in charge. But look now at the next, how many verses I'm going to throw at you. Look at verse 40. all the way until 123. Just scan through them quickly, please. Verses 123. Ya Bani Israel, Ya Bani Israel. Oh, that's another nation Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed. So this is number 3. The second, I think the word model would be fear, not template, right? Is model much better? Model, like model for you to look at, right? Not a template. I would change this to a model. Here's a second model. A nation that came before you. And look how many verses. Can you count how many verses are those? How many verses? One, 83 verses. Talking about Bani Israel. Why? Why? Because Allah chosen them before us and He given them the leadership in earth, but they failed. They failed in both areas. And here is the interesting thing, pay attention here. How many stories mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah? Just take a guess. How many stories? How many? Adam, the cow, Ibrahim with the Namrud, Ibrahim raising the dead, Talut wa Jalut, the people who fled from the plague, something like 9, 10 stories. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose the cow in particular to name this chapter after? What is the name of this chapter? The cow. Why? Because Bani Israel failed in the second one. If you know the story of the cow, what is the story of the cow? Very interesting story. That when Bani Israel were in the desert, in Sinai, after they crossed the Red Sea, they were 12 tribes in the desert. And there was like a stingy man who had a lot of money, and he had no one to inherit him except his nephew. And he was stingy. So his nephew said, why should I wait until the guy dies? Let me expedite the inheritance process. So at night he killed him. And not only this, he became more greedy. He dragged his corpse, right, body, corpse, to another tribe's land to ask for a ransom, to accuse them and ask for a ransom. So in the morning they woke up. Where is my uncle? I miss my uncle. What happened to him? They found him killed in that place of the other tribe. You guys killed him. No, we did not. We just found him here. So they started quarreling. They're about to fight. They said, why should we fight when we have amongst us someone who speaks to Allah? Musa. So they went to Musa and they asked him, listen, this is the mystery here. Can you help us solve that mystery? So Prophet Musa made dua. Allah said to him, tell them to slaughter a cow. Quite frankly, if you ask me what is the relationship between the cow and slaughtering a cow and solving that mystery, I mean, it doesn't connect, correct? I mean, what is the relationship? But who's telling you? The all-wise, right? The all-knowing, right? So you shouldn't what? You should say what? I hear and I obey. So what did Bani Israel started doing? What color? Which one? And they kept what? Back and forth. So they failed or no? That is the first thing. Regarding the first one, I mean, I can give you multiple examples. We know that we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without what? Seeing. That's what we call believe in the unseen, that Allah is not seen in this world to us, but yet we believe in Him. Did you know that they asked Musa that were not, one day Prophet Musa alayhi salatu wasalam brought to them the commands and he said, لَن نُؤْمِنَ لَكَ حَتَّى نَرَى اللَّهَ جَهْرًا. We're not going to execute these commands until we see what? Allah. Again, that template is Muslims. Don't even think about it. And that's why, by the way, the Quran talks a lot about them to teach us. This is what they have done. By the way, let's be fair, because also the Quran speaks about righteous and pious of them. The Quran actually is very fair to them. That the Quran says, look, وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ مَنْ إِنْ تَأْمَنْهُ بِقِنْطَارٍ يُؤَدِّهِ إِلَيْهِ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ إِنْ تَأْمَنْهُ بِدِينَارٍ لَا يُؤَدِّهِ إِلَيْهِ. Some of the people of the book, when you trust them with millions of dollars, they will deliver. They will deliver it. But others, when you give them 1 dinar, $1, he will cheat you. So there is and there is. So in a way, but the majority of them, also we need to realize also at certain times, they were straightforward, like during the time of Dawood, the time of Sulaiman. There are certain times, years, that they went back to their senses and there was a revival. But overall, this is what? This is not a model that you should follow. So the Quran is telling us Muslims. So did we connect this with this or no? Did we connect it or no? So now imagine 80 verses now. When you read them in that context. Don't do that. Okay, take for example, okay. Take for example, let's go to this verse. Let's go to verse 101. وَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ مُصَدِّقٌ لِمَا مَعَهُمْ نبذ فريق من الذين أوتوا الكتاب كتاب الله وراء ظهورهم كأنهم لا يعلمون. Do you know the meaning of this? That Allah sent to them the guidance which can make them identify who has the power and control in this earth. They abandoned this, and what did they start following? Sorcery, magic, fortune telling. Isn't that what the Muslims are doing now? They left Tawheed and they went to these things. So again, Allah is telling us this, not to what? Not to do that. طيب. Number 4. Are you ready for number 4? Look at this. A successful model. That is from verse 124 all the way until verse 141. Can you look at these verses, please? These group of verses. Can you look at them? 124 until 141. 124 until 141. Can you tell me Bani Israel verses from what verse to what verse? Those 80 verses, can somebody help me? 123, 40 to 123. 40 to 123. Bani Israel. A failing model. Now it's time for a successful what? Successful model. Which was who? Who? Ibrahim was asked to slaughter his own son, not a cow. What did he do? Submit. Didn't even ask a question. No. Here is the model that I want you Muslims to follow. And that is what Allah tells us, follow him. Allah tells our messenger, follow his example. Because he submitted. إذ قال له ربه أسلم قال أسلمت لرب العالمين. Imagine يا إخوة, Allah, I was reflecting about this yesterday. Imagine Ibrahim was asked to circumcise himself at the age of 80. Can you imagine this? He took a qaddum. You know what a qaddum is? A knife. And he went and he did it. Imagine this. Right now we have to put people to sleep to do it. It's a command from Allah. Right? So that's the model Allah is giving to us as Muslims. And subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala structure one of the pillars of Islam, around this man and his family. Every year, 5-6 millions, they go and they walk his footsteps. And his family, not only him, his family, his wife, his son. Because this is the model Allah wants us to adopt. And that until 283. 142 until 283. So allow me to go here. That's number 5. 142 until 283. What is this? The curriculum. I'm sure there's a typo here, but you know what I mean. Curriculum. The manhaj. Now you want to be leaders? Here's what you need to do. Right? Begin with what? You guys are going to have to pray. Which direction, Ya Rab? Qibla. سيقول السفهاء من الناس ما ولاهم عن قبلتهم التي كانوا عليها. You're going to face Mecca now. Qibla, the direction. And then talk about, Hajj. Talking about fasting. Talking about Salah. And it went down to what? Relationship between a man and his wife. The curriculum. These are the things you have to say what? سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. We hear and we obey too. Don't come back and say, no, I'm not going to fast. Why should I fast? Don't say that. Don't do like them. You should be like who? Ibrahim. No question asked. When it is a command from Allah, 5. And subhanallah, you find the greatest verse in the Quran mentioned in the midst of these verses. Do you know the greatest verse in the Quran? Which verse? Ayatul Kursi. Why? What is the wisdom? Allah is telling you, listen, you're doing this because you believe in Allah. And this is Allah. These are the attributes of Allah. These are the names of Allah. And also the story of Talut and Jalut. That here is, it doesn't matter, by the way, how few you are, you still can succeed. Because Allah is the one who will help you, as long as you're what? You're submitting. The story of Ibrahim raising the, calling upon the birds and bringing them back to life. The story of Uzair, when he said, can Allah raise this village back? Allah made him die for what? 100 years. So all of this just to show you what? Then Allah talks about usury. Don't do usury. Don't. Allah talks about the structure of debt. When you end up borrowing some money from somebody, how should you do it? The manhaj, the curriculum. You see, the sharia. This is what you have to say, سمعنا وأطعنا to. In Surah Al-Baqarah. Oh, all of these. Jihad, how to do jihad. Don't start a fight without a reason. Self-defense. And here is the etiquettes. All of this. So this is what, did we connect all these verses? Every time that you read these verses now, you reflect upon it. Okay, if I want to be an imam on earth, if I want Allah to help me, I have to say I hear and I obey to this. Then the whole surah ends with this scene out of this world. Look at this now. 283 to 286. Read 283, please, to me. Read 283. To Allah belongs what's in the heavens and what's in the earth. And whether you disclose what's in your chest or keep it concealed, you're held accountable. You know what that means, Amir? That when you think about something haram here, you're guilty. You did it, as if you did it. Right? Imagine the companions, by the way, came to the Prophet, they did like this. They did like this. جثوا على الركب. حديث أبي هريرة سيدنا مسلم. They said, Ya Rasulullah, we were commanded to pray. We said, سمعنا وأطعنا. We were commanded to سمعنا وأطعنا. They named certain. This one we can't. Technically, it's really difficult. And now do not assume that the companions were rejecting the commands. We know that the attitude of the companions was always, they are after ihsan, attaining the highest level in their religion, that they excel in executing the commands. This one, quite frankly, is difficult. And just to give you a practical example of this, there is a verse in Surah Al-Hajj talking about the haram, which says, وَمَنْ يُرِدْ فِيهِ بِإِلْحَادٍ بِظُلْمٍ نُذِقْهُ مِنْ عَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. One of the ways to translate or understand this verse, that if you are in the haram and if you think about haram things, you're guilty. You think about it. وَمَنْ يُرِدْ. And these situations happen, by the way, when you do tawaf, when it's so crowded, females and males do tawaf together, right? Sometimes you find yourself stuck. Don't even think about it. No. Just to let you know that some of the companions moved out of Mecca. They went to Taif. They said, no, I don't want to handle this, no. So this is as if they understood this verse that for you to live in Mecca, this is the rule. They said, you know what? No, I'm just going to go to Taif. It's hard. For the Sahaba, they did not want to fall under the concept of falling short in fulfilling the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they came and they said no. In a way, in a very respectful way. You know what the Prophet said to them? Look at this. And that sums up the whole surah to you. You know what he said to them? Are you going to say exactly what the followers of the two books before you? I thought we're not going to follow that model. You see that model, they said what? We hear and what? And disobey. Are you going to do like them? Say what? سمعنا وأطعنا. Even to this one, say سمعنا وأطعنا. Look, just to show you, Amir, that they had a good intention. Abu Hurairah, the narrator of the hadith, said what? فَزَلَّتْ بِهَا أَلْسِنَتُهُمْ. Their tongue slipped with it. Not from sleeping, but the slipping, Yeah. Like, okay, You know, some people, they go, oh, I can't do this. But brother, just say سمعنا وطعنا. Okay, Sheikh, سمعنا وطعنا, inshallah. You know, so they had no intention. They said سمعنا وطعنا. Jibreel comes down with what? With the relief. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا. We hear and we obey. غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. Then the تخفيف came, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Again, emphasizing the 3 verses, the 2 qualities you need to have in order to be what? In order to be like this man, not like this, not like this. Did we connect all of Al-Baqarah or no? You see, that's the type of tafsir that we're going to do with every chapter of the Quran. Imagine this. Now, when you read the chapter, everything falls what? In place. And this type of tafsir is very beneficial to the people who do not speak Arabic, who do not know Arabic, even though I encourage you highly to learn the language. But this is very helpful. When you read these verses in English, you know where they should fall into. The whole of Al-Baqarah, and that's why you ask yourself this question. Al-Baqarah was revealed in Medina. That means how many years after the prophethood? 13 years. Why it was placed the first in the Mus'haf after Al-Fatiha? Why? Yes, go ahead.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
So imagine you're able to understand all of Al-Baqarah within the context of this. So the higher aim of the surah is what? Samir, what would you say the higher aim of the surah? But let me ask you this question. Did the first generation of Muslim succeed They certainly did. I mean, study history from Adam until today. Never in history a nation takes over 2 superpowers in 12 years. Never. Never ever. I mean, all of Persia, imagine, during Umar time was gone. And you need to know something about the Arabs, how these two, the Persians and the Romans, how they look down upon the Arabs. It's like, who's these guys? You guys, desert guys, who are you? You're coming us what to do, you're telling us what to do? Because they implemented that formula. Believe in the unseen, don't question the unseen. Look at the Ummah right now. Okay, you find Muslims doubting the Day of Judgment. Muslims doubting punishment in the grave. When we have text, Muslims now talking about God in a way that, look at the hijab. Is it in the Quran? You know, look at alcohol. They're finding excuses to drink alcohol. Well, I don't get drunk. I just same. But now, that generation succeeded because they believe in the unseen. They don't have doubts. Whims and desires, it was there, but not in a collective way. Now, Allah is telling us there are 3 types of people. Those are the believers who can be this, who can be imams, who can be leaders. Now I'll give you a couple of models. One of them was experiment, which is going to identify the enemy for you, and also what happened if you get in trouble. What should you do? The second model, please, stay away from it. Please, don't even. That's why the Prophet ﷺ was so keen on make us look different to Jews and Christians. Don't even try to look like them. The people of the book do not dye their beards. Dye your beard. They don't pray in their shoes. Pray in your shoes. Oh. Ashura, they fast the 10th, fast the 9th. Because, you see, there is higher goals behind this. Okay, here is the model I want you to follow. Him and his family. And I'm going to send some of you to Hajj every year to do what they did, so you can remember them. Ibrahim and his family. Now you know what to do now. Look at Ibrahim. What did he do? Anything. I will do it, Ya Rab. Oh. Here's the curriculum. Start working now. Qibla, Salah. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam. Fasting is prescribed upon you, legislated upon you. يسألونك عن الأهلة قل now. وأنفقوا, spend in the cause of Allah. Marriage. How do you marry? How do you divorce? Breastfeeding the children. To the smallest detail. You're supposed to say what to that curriculum? What? You're supposed to say what? If you want to be what? And if you want to be like what? And not like what? The whole thing is rhyme, connects together. And that's maqas. And by the way, that's not my invention, okay? This is from the books. Tahir ibn Ashur and other scholars, but something that you have to really... very few scholars wrote in this subject. But you could take it out of their tafsir, the other tafsirs, books of tafsir, inshallah. So imagine today you got to understand Surah Al-Baqarah. You have an understanding of Surah Al-Baqarah. All right? I'm going to leave Al-Fatiha till the very end. Because Al-Fatiha sums up the whole Quran. Now the next surah, inshallah, next Wednesday, Al-Imran. I'll explain Al-Imran to you. But very interesting. When you say in the Quran, in Surah Al-Fatiha, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, guide us to the straight path. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, the path of those upon whom you bestowed your favor. Leave this alone for now. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ. Who are those? It was mentioned in an authentic hadith. Yahud. They earned the wrath of Allah because they had the knowledge and they did not act upon it. So that's in Al-Baqarah. وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. Who are الضَّالِّينَ? It was mentioned in the same hadith, the Christians. The Christians were mentioned in the next chapter, Al-Imran, the family of Imran. So inshallah, next Wednesday, if you're interested in this stuff. But again, it's very academic. That's why we need a board and we need you to write. And bring your favorite Quran, because we're going to go through the verses. Again, we're going to break it down into this. Look, 280 verses. Categorization of people. 1 to what? The first experiment. You have a whole map. I call it a map of Surah Al-Baqarah. Now you have a GPS of Surah Al-Baqarah. All right? Jazakumullahu khairah. Any questions? Say? No, you see, there is nobody who did this work. I have to go through 3-4 tafsir just to come up with that understanding. It's a lot of work. Just to produce this little is a lot of work. Ibn Kathir was not really, into this. We have a couple of scholars. Al-Tahir ibn Ashur is one of the people who really excelled in this. One of the Moroccan, he's Tunisian actually, to be accurate. Al-Suyuti did a good job in one of his books, Ad-Durar fi Maqasid al-Suwar. And others, Al-Dhilal as well, just to not to be fair to Sayyid Qutb. Al-Dhilal is a piece of art in this. Dhilal fi Dhilal al-Quran has a lot of stuff. So you really have to go through multiple tafsir to be able to produce that. But again, you have to be extremely careful not to cross the boundary, not to make up what. I can prove to you that this is the aim right here without having to, exceed or come up with things that are not in the Quran. You're getting that? So you have to be very careful, because the subject is a subject of ijtihad. That you read through the text and you produce it. But there are certain rules that you have to follow. Certain boundaries you cannot cross. Right? Salim.
Is ihsan something that we aim for, or is it something that's actually reachable?
Well, if it is something that Allah said or the Messenger said that it can be done, that means it can be done. But you need to understand that there is no such a thing that you become a muhsin all the time. The belief of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah that faith goes up and down. Islam, Iman, Ihsan. So you're supposed to go in between those. In the morning you could be a Muslim, upgrade to Mu'min. What matters is you should not drop below what? Because if you really think about it, you have a circle, circle, circle. Ihsan here, right? Iman here, Islam here. If you drop from Ihsan, you're going to be a Mu'min, right? Muslim. But if you drop from here, where are you going to go? So, you're supposed to go up and down. We'll talk about this other time, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khaira. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والحمد لله رب العالمين.